Hey, Shalom, Sister Kate here. Did a bunch of errands in town. We've got the community event coming up where we're going to go help a lady who was devastated by the last storms and flooding in her area. And I got some things for that cause. Look at oh my goodness, my head covering totally sideways. That happens when the wind is blowing or when I get in the car. Anyway, something that's been in the news lately are these riots in Hong Kong. 2 months, I think Pastor said, these riots have been going on. And I remember I either did a video about it or mentioned it in a video back when the unrest first started to happen. I believe the leader in Hong Kong, there may have been an election, and that new leader was starting to look more mainland China friendly. And mainland China does have control of Hong Kong, but it had been kind of loosely allowing Hong Kong to be sort of a financial center, because Hong Kong makes a lot of money and has been a business center since the British had control of it before they handed it back to China. And the people in Hong Kong, when this new leader came in and started saying, hey, yeah, we're going to possibly extradite criminals over to the mainland, they knew, they could see the writing on the wall. I put quotes there because seeing the writing on the wall is a biblical reference. There is the biblical story talking about a leader, and the prophet he's talking to writes on the wall, you have been weighed, you have been tested, and you have been found wanting. And then soon after, there's a bad consequence for that king. So the Hong Kong people, they weighed, they measured, and they found wanting the new way that their government is going vis-a-vis China. And China is starting to clamp down more. It's probably a result of President Trump now enacting tariffs against China. They don't want to cut their profits, so they're kind of start to squeeze Hong Kong, which is one of the places that makes money for them. And so there have been these riots. And one thing that Pastor did was he looked at a picture of a riot policeman in Hong Kong, and he said, this guy's got everything on his gear. He has, I forget the list that Pastor made, but I know he said, like, he has a firearm, he has a knife, a baton, a flashlight, gloves. I don't remember if he said bulletproof vest or not, but just, all these things, a radio, and it occurred to me when he said that, a couple of things. Riots are dangerous. They really are. Riots are an uncontrolled mob who often are just fueled by adrenaline or anger or greed or whatever it is. And riots are not new. Riots have been around forever and ever. The Romans used to riot when they weren't happy, and that's why Caesars came up with the idea of doing gladiators in the Colosseum. It was entertainment at a time when people didn't have TVs or phones or anything, and would get frustrated by how hard life was, and it was a diversion to have them go to the Colosseum. Otherwise, they would riot. And when people riot, many times property is destroyed. There's a loss of value there. And some of the more famous rioting going on that I could think of in my head was the Sons of Liberty used to riot, I think, once a week, and then destroy things in Boston, property and fences and so on that belonged to people who backed the king, who were loyalists, and they would burn, the king in effigy, or they would tar and feather, like the guy who collected taxes for England. They would get violent, and sometimes the tar and feathering is excruciating, and the person may die from that. And then there were riots at the Chicago 1968 Democratic convention. I think there were riots there, and you know, America, we're kind of, on one hand, rioting was a bad thing, and the police would just wade in and knock people on the head and whatever. And then rioting has gotten more, you know, the police are less aggressive in reacting to it, and just trying to contain them and keep them from spreading. The Rodney King riots, or was it OJ riots, Rodney King, that whole thing in LA where, you know, the people who, I can't remember if it was because OJ was innocent or if a team they liked lost or whatever, but there was a very large amount of rioting and lots of damage. And then there was a summit up in Seattle, and the Antifa and the, you know, anarchists and the reactionaries against the G20 or G8 or whatever powers were there. They rioted too and damaged a bunch of buildings, and sometimes people are injured. In America, there's not so many fatalities in a riot, but there is a loss of property. And nowadays, like, our riot police often just have, you know, like a shield and anti-mask. What do they call it? I can't think. If they put like tear gas out there, then the police have their masks to keep them from being affected by it, and they have, you know, batons or billy clubs. But usually in America, riots don't get too violent. And then I thought about that Hong Kong cop, and I thought, why is he so, I mean, he had it all. He had a bunch of stuff on him, and I thought, why? Oh, yeah, he had a shotgun and a pistol and a this and a that. I thought, why? And then I thought, maybe because since people are tiny in places in Asia and China, Korea, they are taught martial arts. They are taught taekwondo or kung fu or, what's the other one? Kung fu. I'll think of it in a minute. They're taught these things, and they are tough. And by the time they're adults, they're pretty good at it. I mean, look at Michelle Yeoh. She was, I think, Miss Malaysia or something, and yet she's in these movies like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, doing all that martial arts stuff, even when she's 40. So I'm sure a riot in some place like China, if it gets out of hand and you've got all those people who know kung fu, yeah, the riot police really do need to be careful. One, because they're going to be vastly outnumbered. There's a huge populace in China, and a huge amount of them are males. You know, I forget when Mao Zedong happened, but within the last 50 years, there was that whole thing about, you know, killing the female offspring, and everybody has sons, and there's not enough women for them to marry, and so on. And all those guys outnumber the police, I'm sure, like 100 to 1. So in a riot, if you're a policeman trying to keep that thing under control, and these guys know kung fu and all that too, it's probably serious. It's probably very serious. And the reason that when the Tiananmen Square protests were going on, the government's like, we're not playing, we're bringing in tanks. This is just not going to get out of hand. It reminds me of a comment that Vinegar Joe Stilwell, who was a general stationed in China right around the 1900s, I think right before World War II, possibly. He said he was walking out in the Chinese rural areas, and he saw this huge caterpillar coming to him, and it wasn't, when it got close, he realized it wasn't a caterpillar, it was a bunch of people pushing a train car on a railroad track. It had no power to move that thing, so they just got, 100, 200, 300 villagers and had them push it along this railroad track. Well, it sounds implausible, but if you get enough people, you can overwhelm a tank if it's not firing on you. If you get close to it, you can disable it in pretty simplistic ways. So, yeah, riots in Hong Kong and Chinese police, probably a pretty serious thing. All right, well, those are just my thoughts. I'm gonna continue on my way, and hope you guys have a great day. Bless you. Thanks for watching. Shalom.